Hare Krishna. Welcome to Tax Guru YouTube channel. This is CA Ronar Pingre, practicing chartered accountant based in Mumbai, also partner in Motilal and Associates LLP, member firm of Marks Network. Welcome to video series GST Relearn. And today is part 20 and we are going to discuss topic liability to pay in certain cases. So let's dive into it. Let me allow to share my screen. Yes. So today's topic is liability to pay in certain cases under GST. Very interesting. Stay tuned to the till the end. So we will also learn conclusions that can be drawn from today's learning. So let's see what we are going to learn in today's topic. So, introduction to the liability to pay in certain cases, we will see the meaning of it. Then we will discuss section 85, 86, 87, 88, 89 till 94, which covers the liability in all various areas. Okay. And after that, we will see some consolidated practical examples. And after that, as I said, conclusions that can be drawn from today's learning. So let's start. So chapter 16 deals with liability to pay in certain cases. So sections 85 to 94 of the CGST Act focuses on situations where a person other than the taxpayer becomes liable to discharge GST liabilities. Okay, what this chapter and sections 85 to 94 focuses on situations where a person other than taxpayer becomes liable to discharge the GST liabilities. That is the important part of it. So this includes situations involving transfer of business, agency relationship, mergers, liquidations, partnerships restructures, minors business, trust, court control estate, and other special situations. So these all things will include in this. So we will see now one by one, we will deal with each section. Okay. Section 85. Section 85 talks about liability in case of transfer of business. What it talks about transfer of business. So let's see. When a business is transferred wholly or partly, okay, when business is transferred wholly or partly, whether permanently or temporarily, both transferor and transferee are jointly and severally liable for all dues up to the date of the transfer. Just note down it. What? Whether business is transferred wholly or partly, permanently or temporarily, both transferor and transferee are jointly and severally liable for all dues up to the date of the transfer. Forms of transfer include what? Sale, lease, gift, leave and license, hire, any other manner. That is example, slum sale. So what are the key points under this? Transferee continues business must amend what? GST registration. Transferee who continues business must amend GST registration. Liability includes what? Tax, interest, and penalty. Applies even if dues are determined after the date of the transfer. When it also applies even if dues are determined after the date of the transfer. So let's see practical example to understand it better. A Limited sells its entire business to B Limited with effect from 1st July 2025. Later, a GST audit finds unpaid tax for financial year 23-24. A Limited sells its entire business on which date? Means from with effect from 1st July 2025 to B Limited. Later, a GST audit finds unpaid tax for financial year 23-24. So both A limited and B limited, transferor and transferee both are jointly and severally liable to pay tax, interest, and penalty for periods prior to 1st July 2025. Hope due to this example, we will understand the concept very easily. Next, Section 86, liability of agent and principal. Where an agent supplies or receives taxable goods on behalf of the principal, both are jointly and severally liable for GST on such goods. Okay, when agent supplies or receives taxable goods on behalf of whom principal, both principal and agent severally liable for GST on such goods. Let's say example, a commission agent sells goods for a principal and collect GST but doesn't deposit it. So GST authorities may recover dues from either agent or principal. So both are liable to government. Understood? Next. Section 87, liability in case of amalgamation or merger. Where companies merge or amalgamate and the order is effective from date earlier than the order date, all transactions between the entities from that date are treated as supplies. Where companies merge or amalgamate and the order is effective from which date earlier than the order date, all transactions between the entities from that date are treated as supplies. Let's say example, company X and Y merge retrospectively from April 1, order dated 1st August. Transactions between X and Y from April to August are treated as taxable supplies. Very important. Okay. Liability in case of amalgamation or merger where companies merge or amalgamate and the order is effective from the date earlier than the order date. All transactions between the entities from that date are treated as sorry, supplies. Next. Section 88, liability in case of company in liquidation. The liquidator must inform the commissioner. Commissioner notifies the liquidator of estimated GST dues which must be paid before distributing the asset. Commissioner notifies the liquidator of estimated GST dues, how much it is, and which must be paid before the distributing asset. So, example XYZ Private Limited enters the liquidation. Liquidator must first clear GST dues before paying to the creditors. Very important. Next, Section 89, liability of directors of private limited company. If a private company fails to pay GST and recovery cannot be made from the company, directors during the default period, very important, directors during the default period become jointly and severally liable. Even if he retires and the notice comes for the period which covers when the directors are in on duty on that time, even if he is currently or presently retired or not connected to the company, he will be held liable for it. Okay, that is the explanation. Section 89 talks about liability of directors of a private company. If a private company fails to pay GST and recovery cannot be made from the company, directors during the default period becoming jointly and severally liable. For example, a private limited defaults in paying GST for 24-25. Company has no assets. Directors of that year are liable. Directors of that year are liable. Very, very important. Section 90, liability of partners of the firm. Partners are jointly and severally liable for GST dues of the firm. A retiring partner must intimate the commissioner within 1 month. Otherwise, liability continues until intimation is received. Very, very important. Please note down if you want. Partners are jointly and severally liable for GST dues of the firm. A retiring partner must intimate to the commissioner within 1 month. Otherwise, liability continues until intimation is received. Example, partners retires on 31st March but informs commissioner on 31st July. So returning partner liable for GST dues up to 31st July. Between that period from 31st March to 31st July, he will be held liable for the GST liabilities. Section 91, liability of guardians, trustees, etc. When business is carried on by whom guardian or trustee of a minor or incapacitated person, such guardian or trustee is liable to pay GST. Very straightforward. For example, a trust runs a shop for a minor beneficiary. Trustee is liable for GST. Section 92. Liability of court of wards, administrators, etc. When estate or business is managed, when estate or business is managed by whom? Court of wards, administrator, or receiver, such persons are responsible to pay GST. In case of this, when estate or business is managed by court of wards, administrator, or receiver, in that case, such persons are responsible to pay GST. Section 93, special provisions regarding liability in certain cases. Let's see. This applies when a taxable person dies, business is carried on by whom? Legal representative or family, business is discontinued, legal representative or heirs are liable to extent of legal representative or heirs are liable to extent of assets inherited. Very important. Section 93 talks about special provisions regarding liability in certain cases, that is applies when a taxable person dies, business is carried on by whom? Legal representative or family, business is discontinued, legal representative or heirs are liable to the extent of assets inherited. For example, a sole proprietor dies leaving 20 lakhs of assets and 15 lakhs GST dues. Legal heirs liable up to rupees 15 lakhs limited to inherited assets. So how much assets are inherited? Rupees means GST dues is how much? 15 lakhs. Okay, sole proprietor dies leaving 20 lakhs of assets and 15 lakhs GST dues. So legal is liable up to 15 lakhs limited to inherited assets. Okay. Next, Section 94, liability in other cases. It covers miscellaneous situations involving what? Discontinued business, partnership of HUF, dissolution of firm, EOP broken up, and transfer of business assets. Example: HUF business splits among members. All members are jointly and severally liable for pre-partition GST dues. Very simple to understand. Section 94 covers the miscellaneous situations involving discontinued business, partition of HUF, dissolution of firm, AOP broken up, transfer of business assets. So HUF business splits among members, all members jointly and severally liable for pre-partition GST dues. And now we will see consolidated practical examples to understand few of the concepts. Example 1, transfer of business. N sells his bakery to N on 1st April 2025. Department later finds unpaid GST for October to December 24. So liability is both of M and N jointly and severally liable for that particular liability. Very simple. Due to example, we will understand the concept very clearly and easily. Example 2, agent scenario. Agent sells goods worth 10 lakhs for his principal but fails to deposit the GST. So liability of it, department may recover tax from either agent or principal, means both are liable. Example 3, director liability. Private company unable to pay GST due to neglect, no assets left. Directors liable jointly and severally for dues of default period. Partnership retirement. Partners retires on 1st Jan. Firm delays intimation until 15th March. Liability, retiring partner liable up to 15th March. Very clear? Fifth example, business of deceased person. Sole proprietor dies, son continues business. Liability will be son liable to extent of inherited assets. Okay. And now we will move on our end of the session conclusions that can be drawn from today's learning. So the provisions under Chapter 16, that is sections 85 to 94 of the CGST Act, established what an essential legal framework that ensures the continuity and protection of the government revenue even when business undergo structural, managerial, operational changes. Let's see key conclusions that can be drawn. First, revenue protection is the core objective. The GST law ensures that a taxable person cannot evade dues by restructuring or discontinuing the business. Joint and several liability is a recurring mechanism. Several sections like 85, 86, 89, 90, and 94 adopt joint and several liability, strengthening the enforcement framework. Next, liability flows with the business, not only with the person. In cases such as business transfer or amalgamation, GST liabilities move along with the business operations. Very important. Representatives, fiduciaries, and successors are accountable. Sections 91, 92, and 93 emphasis on what accountability of guardians, trustees, legal heirs, and court appointed administrators. Strict compliance obligations are imposed on key persons like directors of private company, partners of the firm, agents, and principals. Their roles come with specific accountability for GST compliance. Procedural compliance is what critical. For example, retiring partners must give intimation within 1 month, otherwise he will be liable till he files the intimation. Liquidators must notify the department. Failure to follow such procedures leads to what extension of liability beyond one's tenure or scope. Okay, that's it for today. We have learned the topic liability to pay in certain cases under GST today in part 20. Hope you are learning and getting knowledge from video series like this. So stay tuned to the Tax Guru YouTube channel. If you are not yet subscribed, then do subscribe it. If you like this video, please click on like and also share in your network. So because sharing is necessary to spread the knowledge to the mass of the people. So stay tuned. Take care. Bye bye. See you soon in next video. Hare Krishna.